What's good, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Franchise Play, and I apologize, sincerely apologize for my tardiness. Obviously, I could not get to Ask FP last night because we were in Novato, California for the NBA 2K event, and I just got back like early this morning. It was a great time. I tried to put together a nice little vlog video, so I hope you got an opportunity to watch that. Some funny stuff happened with Sub shooting the air ball and Cash getting dunked on. I actually had a little clip where I was guarding D'Angelo Russell one-on-one. He wasn't really trying to beat me off the dribble. Shakedown had the video, but I couldn't get in contact with Shake today so he could send me the video. When he sends me the video, I will make sure that I put that up. But I got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Obviously, there's going to be some 2K in there, but there is going to be some stuff that's not 2K. So if you're just here for the 2K information, you got to understand that I do Ask FP every single week. And so I have followers that are expecting to have their questions answered. So I couldn't just do away with everything that wasn't 2K. I had to still stick to, whatever. So I did try to basically include as much 2K as possible because I'm still working on, I'm going to do 4 articles and 4 videos based on the information that I received over the last day and a half from 2K. So just so you know that, it's always important to set the proper expectations, so people can't really be disappointed about what goes on, right? Somebody's still going to be disappointed, but it is what it is. At least I covered my back. All right, so let's not waste a lot of time because I think I got 18 and 19 questions to hit. So we're going to start off with the question of the week, and it comes from Derek Dynasty. And you guys have already seen what the question of the week is or some variation of it. Derek Dynasty asks, is 2K close to making a college basketball game? This question makes a whole lot of sense right about now. And the reason why it makes a lot of sense now is because you guys have already seen the trailer for the Prelude. I cannot go into too much about my career, so I'll tell you that now because it's embargoed until I believe it's Friday. I'll double check on that. But from what you've already seen on the trailer, you already see that they have schools that are going to be licensed for you to be able to use in the Prelude. And so this will make the second year in a row that 2K is dealing with collegiate programs, and they're the first to do that since the whole Ed O'Bannon and that whole thing that went down that made it where we were not able to, or the companies were not able to use the collegiate licenses. So they're the first ones to do this. So that right there is like I said, that's reason enough to say, hey, this might that's not a dumb question. I'm not going to go as far as to say that they're going, that's going to happen right now, because I just feel like I don't think that's something that we can look forward to, or you can say, oh, yeah, that's going to go down sometime super soon. No, I don't think that that's the case. I feel like we still got a little ways to go before we get to that point. Because if you think about it, if you got 10, 12, 14 schools and that's all you got that you have license to use, that's not going to carry it. That's not going to carry it. That's not going to be enough to make people say, okay, yeah, well, we have enough. So you're not going to get that. So I feel like you need to have some sort of thing worked out where I think before we're going to see that happening, you're going to have to see a resolution overall to the whole college licensing issue. If you don't see a resolution to that in itself, then you're going to be done. There's no way in the world that you're just not going to be able to carry an entire game off of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm having some issue with my screen share this time. I'm not sure what's going on here. First time I had any real technical difficulties with this, but yeah, this is kind of crazy. I may end up having to keep. Usually I pop in and out with my face on the screen and then coming back to the questions, but I don't think nobody's going to complain too much about not being able to see my face. So that would be odd. So yeah, I mean, the question is, are they close? I don't think they're close. I think that they are moving in that direction, but I still think it's maybe 2 to 3 years off before we see them actually get to the nitty gritty and like, yeah, okay, we got a college game now. All right, the next question comes from Gunnar Matthews 24, and he says, do you think that Floyd Mayweather is a better boxer than Muhammad Ali? I won't say that I think he's a better boxer. I would say that Floyd is an amazing boxer in his own right. But Ali, see, here's the thing. The question is, when you say the word boxer, are you saying as a pure boxer, a technician, or are you talking about an overall fighter? You know, is he a better at his profession? Is that what you're saying? If you're saying is he better at his profession, I would say probably not, because I would say that Ali carried the power later into his career. And that's something that Mayweather sacrificed for the defense and for to stay, basically to preserve himself, which I'm not hating on him for that. But that to me, that's where the difference is. You know, he got rid of, I mean, he because if you watch Mayweather early in Mayweather's career, he was trading shots. That's what he was trading shots. He was going, toe to toe with guys early in his career in the lower weight classes. But as he started to get older, he said, you know what, I'm more interested in longevity than I am being interested in actually, getting knockouts. My personality will sell me. So that was a business decision that he made. And in light of doing that, he has become the most, there's no boxer that has earned more than Floyd. Floyd has earned ridiculous riches just, with his style. So just really, it's hard to knock the hustle, right? All right, the next question comes from Broc Lesnar. And he says, do you believe in Tim Tebow to make it all the way to an MLB team? I don't. I think had he started this journey earlier, then he would have had an opportunity probably. You see it. You see what he looks like on the field. He looks like he's chiseled out of granite. You don't see any baseball player with that type of build. Mike Trout ain't even built like that. You know what I mean? So, and he's definitely a crazy good athlete. And his swing isn't horrible. If you look at his the footage that they were showing from his workout, swing's not horrible. And we might talk about his arm not being good enough as an NFL quarterback, but I'd be willing to bet he has an above average throwing arm in the outfield for baseball. So I don't know about the accuracy, but I'm sure the strength is there. And he, like I say, he's just an athlete. He'd be a base stealing threat all the time if he could get on base. But I just think that baseball is a really tough sport to pick up and try to play this late in your life without having all of those years to train. So one of the hardest things to do in professional sports is to hit a baseball, and trying to do it on a major league level. And when you had a late start is really, really tough. All right. Our next question comes from Jackson Falcons, and Jackson Falcons, who I believe is new, so I appreciate you stepping in here, says, is it possible to name the best player in sports like football and baseball where there are so many different roles? That's a good question, Jackson. I don't think there is. And put it like this. In baseball, it's a little bit easier to do it than it is in football, because I first of all, I think you can only say this person is the best player in the league if they play both sides of the ball. You know what I'm saying? So football, that kind of takes that out of the equation. You can't say a single person is the best. I can say this person is the best at his position, but you can't say this guy's the best player in the league, because like you said, so many guys have different roles. Baseball, I think you can say who's the best position player and then who is the best pitcher, but I don't think you can say, hey, you can't compare a hitter to a pitcher. But in basketball, you can definitely do that, because the guys are just as responsible to defend as they are to score. So you can kind of combine that together. I think it's an easier thing to say in that sport. All right, our next question comes also from Jackson Falcons. And Jackson Falcons this time says, a greater Canadian athlete, Georges St. Pierre or Steve Nash? It's a really good question, but I would definitely have to go with Steve Nash. I understand what GSP has accomplished in his sport, but when you look at longevity, you look at durability, you look at, GSP has risen to the pinnacle of his sport. Nash never did. But again, this is apples and oranges type of a comparison. So I can't say, oh, well, he won a championship and he didn't. It's a different situation. This is an individual sport compared to a team sport. So, but if you're talking about pure athleticism, many people will argue or tell you that Steve Nash is athletic or good enough to play professional soccer had he dedicated himself to that. We already know that he's a Hall of Fame basketball player. Is going to be a Hall of Fame basketball player. So I would have to give it to Steve Nash, just me personally. All right, the next question comes from HH. He says, do you think that WWE 2K17's graphics are close to NBA 2K this year on PS4? I definitely think so. I've had an opportunity to play both games, and I would venture to even say WWE 2K17's graphics are better than NBA 2K's. Now, here's the thing, though. NBA 2K has a responsibility of putting 10 active players on the field on your screen, able to be interacted with at one time. In WWE 2K17, I don't think you can ever have more than 6 because of the Royal Rumble, or when you have a 6-man tag or something to that effect. I don't think you can never have more than 6. At the most, it's 8, right? So when you have 1v1 or 2v2 on a screen, the resolution, the animation, all of that is able to be a little bit more crisp because you don't have as many active characters on the screen. So it's kind of a little bit difficult to compare those, but you can, compare like the facial renders and that sort of thing, who came out the clearest. And I'm telling you, if you haven't got an opportunity to see up close and personal looking at some of the WWE 2K17 renders, I'm telling you, they are phenomenal, ridiculous good. So I would have to lean with WWE 2K17 on that one. And the next question is from Broc Lesnar again. And he says, your opinion on the Raiders going to Vegas, is it a good or bad idea? You know, I don't think it's a bad idea, to be honest. I mean, I feel like a Raiders game in Vegas is going to always have a certain amount of appeal because it's in Vegas. It's going to be people, if you go to Vegas during football season, it's going to almost like automatically become an attraction to go to a Raiders game while you're in Vegas. And everybody knows people go to Vegas over the weekend, all of that different type of thing for vacations. So I think it can be just become the Raiders, even if they're not good, can almost become another part of being a tourist attraction for that particular city, where tourism and gambling is pretty much just about all of the whole entire city's economy. So I think it's a good idea from that standpoint. I'm not worried about gambling issues or players becoming, being addicted to gambling. I don't think that's going to increase the chances or hurt the chances or anything to that effect. I mean, you can gamble anywhere you want to now. I mean, you don't have to be in Vegas to have a gambling problem. So I think if a guy doesn't already have it, an issue gambling, I don't think that playing in Vegas or visiting the Raiders once a year is going to create that issue. So if that's where the concern is coming from, I don't know that that's all that realistic. All right, our next question comes from Weston Flores, and he says, why does it seem like when people talk about the greatest Laker of all time, that Shaq just gets thrown to the side? You know what? I have often felt the same way, Weston. I really have. I honestly, Will Chamberlain said something to Shaquille O'Neal before he died, and Shaq sometimes repeats this. And I think this has a lot to do with this question and why people do that, Weston. He told Shaq, he said, nobody likes Goliath. And you might say, well, what did he mean by that? Well, and it's funny that we're talking about this too, because I was telling the guys at the community team up this yesterday and the day before, because they were looking at, Cash Nasty was looking at Karl Anthony Towns, and Cash said that he felt that Karl Anthony Towns was probably going to be the next guy to carry the league. And I disagree, but I didn't disagree because I felt that that Cat wasn't good enough. The reason why I said that is because very rarely do you see fans gravitate to a big man. Usually they want to gravitate to somebody who they can relate to themselves, because the casual fan looks at a big man scoring and doing well, and they tend to have this thought that it's easier for them because they're bigger, and Shaq being a player who did so much with his size and strength and athleticism in that way, people didn't notice the footwork that he had acquired. They also didn't even recognize that Shaq had really solid handles for a guy that big. He also was a good passer as well. So Shaq did a lot of things well. Did he benefit from being humongous? Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the one thing that differentiates Shaq from other bigs. It's the size, the strength, and the speed at that size, especially when he was in his prime. A lot of you, if you're really young and you don't remember Orlando Magic Shaq and early Lakers Shaq, then you only remember Fat Shaq. But when Shaq was young, he was always a big guy, but he was a phenomenal athlete, right? And does he deserve consideration as the greatest Laker of all time? Absolutely, he does. I wouldn't put him there. For me, it's Magic and Kobe second, and I would say Shaq and Jabbar are right there. Now, I'm not saying that Shaq and Jabbar are right there as far as career, because to me, in my opinion, Kareem is the second greatest player of all time. But Kareem did a lot of his stuff with the Bucks. So because of that, makes it, more, I feel like his best times were with the Bucks. Even though he obviously won championships with the Lakers and he was good with the Lakers, his best times were with the Bucks. So as far as being a greatest Laker, I would put Shaq and Kareem right there, probably in the same category. But does he deserve more consideration? Absolutely, for sure. There's no question. All right, the next question comes from Simon Torve Sunland. And this one's tough because he said, what are my top 5 rivalries across major professional sports leagues? And this is tough for a few reasons, and I'm going to tell you why. One of the reasons that it's tough is because many of the greatest rivalries in sports right now, to me, don't take place in professional ranks. And the reason why that is because you have so much player movement now in every sport that it's really hard to sustain a rivalry, because the rivalries are, they're about the teams, but they're a lot about the players and the matchups, unless we're talking about college, where it doesn't matter if, Michigan, an entire class just graduated with Michigan. The next class that comes in is going to hate Ohio State too. It doesn't matter if everybody all of Sparty just graduated. When the next class comes in, they're going to hate the Wolverines too. So it's in college, it's much easier to find those rivalries. But in professional sports, I don't know, man. Red Sox Yankees is still a good rivalry. The Lakers Celtics is a decent rivalry, but the Lakers have been so bad, and the Celtics haven't been true legit contenders in a while. So that one's hard to substantiate. The Giants and Dodgers used to be a huge rivalry that just doesn't seem to have the same umph to it. The Cubs and the Cardinals are definitely still a rivalry. The Cardinals losing John Lackey and Jason Hayward to the Cubs made that even worse. Obviously Manchester United and Manchester City, that's a huge, nasty honestly, that's probably number one. That one's number one because that one just seems to still maintain the same level of nastiness, even though obviously you got players moving around through transfers and all of this type of things that's going on, but that rivalry still seems to stay filthy. So, man, I don't know. I mean, then obviously, Steelers Ravens is Jets Patriots, Bears Packers. Bears Packers is still there, definitely still there. That's huge. As a Chicago Bears fan, I can tell you right now, I hate the Packers, and there's no way I can ever imagine not hating the Packers. I don't hate the players. I just hate the Packers, if that makes any sense. So, yeah. So those are the ones that I named are definitely right there. The next question comes from Derek Dynasty, and he says, how do you feel about the current state of sports journalism? That's a really interesting question, Derek, which you generally have interesting questions all the time. Journalism has changed quite a bit, and I get this question a lot from people. People ask me, well, not your specific question, but people ask me all the time, how do I get started in journalism? How do I get to do what you do? And honestly, man, it's a lot of it has to do with being in the right place at the right time. Obviously, it's about working hard. You got to work, but you don't have to work necessarily for a company to make it or to make some sort of niche in journalism. It's obviously easier because you have the platform, but building a website is cheap. YouTube is cheap, and people don't realize if you're on YouTube, even if you may be abusing the opportunity, if you're on YouTube and reporting any sort of news, you're a journalist. Now, you may not be a good one because you're, saying irresponsible things and you're reporting on things that have not been confirmed to be true as if they are. So that would be an irresponsible journalist. But the current state of sports journalism is very much like the current state of journalism across the board. Nobody, for the most part, you're not going to be first to market with any news. Okay. So if you're wanting to be a journalist right now and you're running around trying to get these stories and trying to be first, that's somewhat of a waste of time. People are interested in opinions because everybody got the news, because everybody's got Twitter, everybody's got whatever, Instagram, everybody's got Snapchat, everybody's got all of these different options or ways to get news. What people tend to search and look for is, what do you think about the news? Especially once they get to a point where they respect your opinion. Now they want to know, okay, I think Derek Dynasty knows what he's talking about when we're talking about whenever it's a football situation. So say there's a major story in the world of football, and these people know that Derek Dynasty always has good concepts, good ideas. Now they're going to come looking for what Derek Dynasty's opinion is about this subject. That right there is being able and unafraid to speak your mind and to be able to back up and support your own opinions about sports. That's the key to building yourself a niche. Now, you don't want to be like somebody who's just a hot air balloon that just throws out crazy stuff just for the sake of getting some attention. It's all right to go against the grain, but when you go against the grain, you should have something to back up your opinion. Maybe I won't agree with your opinion, but I will at least see where you're coming from when you try to back it up. So I'm pleased with the current state of sports journalism. Obviously, I live in this world. This is how I make my living. But I can understand how some old school people who were used to being validated by their paper or validated by their magazine could be frustrated with the fact that somebody who is not affiliated with any publication could potentially have just as much of a voice as they do. So I get it. I get it, All right, our next question comes from Damon Stokes, and he says, whatever happened to player faces, tattoos, and shoes? Well, nothing really. It's been changed a bit. I just started doing player faces and tattoos. And I started doing just player faces because what happened was I was having a hard time finishing the series. Now, I've every player faces, tattoos, and shoes I've ever done, which I want to say I might have started in 2011 or 12. So I've done this for every single version of 2K that's come out, right? And people seem to dig it. I even had one person say that I should do a best of player faces, tattoos, and shoes and go back through all of them and pull out like the funniest moments. And that's a thought, but that's a grind, baby. That's a long work. That's a lot of work. But I still do it. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's player faces, and I don't go into the tattoos and shoes because that series is very, very time consuming. It's very time consuming. And I pretty much commit to doing it every year. I feel like my subscribers won't even allow me not to do it because every time this comes around, like 2K is about to come out, I get people saying, so what's up on the player faces, tattoos, and shoes? So I kind of feel like I got to do it. You know what I'm saying? So to answer your question, nothing's happened to it. It's been changed a bit, but it's still there. All right, the next question is from Simon Torvey Sunland, and he is bringing the heat. He says, what are your thoughts on the actions of Colin Kaepernick? And for anybody who doesn't know, Colin Kaepernick caught some heat in a preseason game for the San Francisco 49ers. The national anthem is playing. He refused to stand up. He sat down, and he did it. It came out that he did it in protest because he says that the United States of America oppresses minorities, people of color. And so, you know, there's some people who support him and say, hey, bravo for standing up for what you believe in. And there's some people who condemn him. I want to remind people of a lot of things, you know, here. First and foremost, freedom of speech and expression exists even when you don't agree with the person that is using their right to freedom. That's the thing that we always have to remember. Everybody talks about the land of the free and the home of the brave and all of that, right? People say that all the time, like 40 going north, right? But they only feel that way until somebody says something that they don't like. The moment somebody says something they don't like, they want to shut them up. And that goes against the entire principles of the Constitution, you know. Secondly, what's so different with Colin Kaepernick refusing to stand up for the national anthem and Muhammad Ali refusing to go to Vietnam? We all up leading to Muhammad Ali's death, and afterwards we heard him lauded as a hero for standing up for what he believed in and saying, hey, you know, them Viet Congs, they never did nothing to me. I'll have no beef with them. That's an oppressed country. I don't believe in going to slaughter an oppressed country. Muhammad Ali is considered a hero, and primarily that stance against the government was one of the biggest reasons why he's called a hero. What's the difference between that and what Colin Kaepernick is doing? I don't see the difference. Now, here's what I will say. I don't have a problem with him, you know, having an issue with the United States and oppressing minorities. I agree with him to, you know, definitely to a degree. I definitely agree with him. I am a proponent, though, of when you do not like something, you protest in a way that impacts your target economically, because you're not going to change people's minds most of the time. A person's going to feel the way they feel about you, and there's very little you can do about it. But what you can do, if it's an economic situation, is you can stop putting your dollars in a place that benefits whom you see as the oppressor. That has always been the way to get your way. You have to make people recognize your value. So if you or me as a minority say, you know what, I don't like the way this store is treating me. I don't like the way I've seen them treat other African Americans. I don't like the way I've seen them treat women. I don't like the way I've seen them treat children. If that's how I feel, then what I do is I stop patronizing that business. I stop shopping there. I stop spending money there. I stop sending my kids there. And I let it be known publicly that this is why I've stopped. They may never like me, but if they ever want to get my money back, they'll treat me different. That's the bottom line. In every single thing that you want to do, holding people accountable is the solution. You got to hold people accountable. If you never hold a person or an entity or an organization or a company accountable, they will never treat you the way you feel that you should be treated. That's just simple, and it applies at any level. All right, our next question is from Victor Daniel Torres, and Victor Daniel Torres says, in your opinion, should Tony Romo retire? Retire, I'm not sure about, but what I do wonder about is, should he really, really strongly consider sitting out an entire year? That's what I wonder. Because because he apparently and clearly is not allowing his back to heal 100%. Because the hit that he took, that when he actually got injured this most recent time, did not look as though it was that serious. And it looked as though it was something that aggravated an older injury. I think Romo may need to say, you know what? I got about one more real hard go at a career. In order to prepare myself for that, I'm going to sit an entire season. I'm going to let this thing heal. And I'm going to be 100% by the time training camp starts next year. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to work to keep my body in condition, obviously, as much as I can. But I'm going to put myself in position to go real hard one more time. And I think that's probably the best thing for him to do. And if I get hurt again, then, yeah, I probably need to hang it up. All right, the next question comes from Martin Medrano, and I believe he is new. I appreciate you stepping in here, Martin. He says, if Kobe Bryant is on this year's cover for the special edition of NBA 2K17, should Tim Duncan be on next year's edition? No. Here's the thing. Tim Duncan doesn't sell things. He doesn't. He's the greatest power forward that ever lived, but he has no cool factor. There is no group of children or young men who are going to go out and buy a product because Tim Duncan endorses it. Kobe, on the other hand, has that impact. He has that type of flavor on. And see, this is being on the cover, obviously, is an honor, but it's not anything that is automatic. This is based on, do we believe having you on the cover will increase the sales of our video game? It's really just that simple. And Tim Duncan has never had that type of a presence. So I don't think that he should be on next year's edition. All right. The next question also comes from Martin Medrano, and he asked, where would you rank Mr.Fuji in the greatest managers of all time? P.S. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that, Martin. Mr.Fuji is one of the greatest heel managers. I would put him maybe in the top 12, 10 or 12. You got people like Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, you got Slick, you got Paul Heyman, you got Classy Freddie Blassie, you got the Fabulous Sherry. All of these people, that's 6 right there that I named that are heel managers that I might put a little bit ahead of Mr. Fuji. Because for me, the only real signature act that Fuji had was Yokozuna. And that was a heck of an act, right? That was a big time guy to endorse. But I don't know. I'm obviously rest in peace. He just recently passed away, for people who don't know. But he definitely is one of the greatest managers, one of the greatest heel managers I think that we've ever seen. All right, our next question comes from Maurice Dixon, and he asked me, when will we see you on Sports Jeopardy? Man, you don't have any idea how much I love sports trivia, games, period, all of that. I love it, man. I have even created, just on the low, I have created a game show, my own prototype for a game show. And a lot of it has to do with sports trivia. So if I ever, if I can get the investors and the capital, you may see it. You may not see Sports Jeopardy, but you may see my own little twist on this joint. So that'll be something to just, we'll see what we got. You see what we can do. But yeah, that's been something I've been tossing around for the last like 3-4 years, to be honest. But wouldn't be me as a contestant, more or less it'd be me as the creator and the host. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But there's an interesting question. All right, my next question comes from Long. He is back. Been gone for a minute. Kobe Bryant 314. And now here comes the heavy 2K questions. It says, in my league, I read we could fully customize the playoff. Does that mean we can do top 16 teams instead of conferences? That part I don't know, because when I went into that on at the 2K team up, we were playing on these first machines, right? And the first machines didn't have my GM, my league, my team, anything. All they had was play now, roster editor, and create a player, which I mess with a lot to see what we could and couldn't do. So when setting up on my league, I didn't even get a chance to set up on my league. We got a lot of new information that I'm going to go over in my upcoming, what do you want to call it, like blog or whatever that's coming up, and in the video that I got coming up. So we got a ton of information on it, but I don't know if we can disregard the seedings and disregard the conferences. That part I don't know about. You can put any 16 teams in the game that's in the game into the playoffs, And maybe that's what they meant by fully customizing. But I don't know. I think what you're saying is, see, I don't know. You might be able to, though, because this, I'm trying to tell y'all, man, this my league, the level of customization, the things that you can change, the stuff I'm going to put in this blog when I put it out there, man, is going to blow some people's straight up minds, man, for real. Crazy, right? But I don't know if you can disregard conferences and just take the top 16 records. So basically, essentially, you could have 14 teams out of the West and 2 out of the East. I don't know. I got to see. That's a question. I might shoot it to Eric Benish. He's the executive producer of the Mode. See if I can get a response back before launch. But yeah, I got to check on that one. All right. My next question comes from Long. He said this is his last one. He says, so will we be able to play in the Olympics in our my league? The answer to that is no, you will not. That's not in the game. As a matter of fact, like I said, I can't really go into too much about my career, but for the most part, those Olympic teams are really kind of confined to like play now. That's what that's really more or less confined to. So yeah, that was a little bit of a bummer for me. I want to say, out of all of the information that I received for NBA 2K17, I was probably only down on about 3 or 4 tidbits of it. And that was one of them for me, that you couldn't incorporate. Well, I felt like the Olympic teams have drastically limited access. So the Dream Team and the 2016 Rio team, I just feel like the access is really limited. So, but you know, it is what it is. All right, what do we have next here? Let's see. I don't even know, man. I don't have any idea what happened to my screen here. My screen is bugging out. I hope y'all haven't been looking at this backwards for the whole time, because that would be kind of bad. But yeah. All right, the next question. Actually, I'm sorry. That was it. I ran straight through. Thought I had one more question left. That was the last one for the day. I do appreciate everybody watching. I appreciate the 2K questions that are coming in. I got work that I'm going to work on tonight and through pretty much the rest of the week that should hopefully should answer every question that hopefully everybody has. I hope it does. And, you know, we're going to go ahead and go from there. But like I said, and I always say, I do appreciate you guys watching. Always, I appreciate everybody that subs, anybody who went to my channel and made donations. I appreciate you absolutely. Going to the description and click the link there and made the donation. I appreciate it absolutely. As always, God bless. Peace.